Hello, TEDxAdankolo. Good morning to you all. Yes, today here is, I want us to go through the miles of 23 years ago as a professional. My name remains REKIYA, ONAIVO SANNI. Through my life, I think I'm among the few that have been successful in terms of what we call an early marriage. Yes, when you have a girl child that is married off, let me put it this way, immediately after secondary school, I think it's an early marriage. Yes, I'm not saying this because I want to criticize the religion I come from. Of course, a girl child after secondary school, when he or she attained a puberty age, it is okay to be married off. But then, if this is not well managed, it will be devastating as well. Why am I sharing this today? We have mothers here who should take some lessons learned from my story today. After my secondary school, I got married. Of course, I don't want to tell you that I understand what that relationship really meant, because at that age, it's hardly to understand what you can call true love, really. But then, that was the situation I found myself. But then my late father insisted that he was not opportune to have the privilege of having an education. I think one of the bargains then was that this girl child must go through the school. And then that agreement was not to let down. After my secondary school, I then traveled abroad with my husband. And then when I got to Russia, at the back of my mind, I had this mindset that I was going to have my education no matter what. I don't know whether we can, okay. So, then in Russia, I met a different situation, at a different environment. It's as if you are just being thrown to a strange land, a desert, where you don't have control of anything that is happening to you. Now, on the screen, you are seeing a word. I want us to have this word at the back of our minds. I will come back to that later. In Russia, then, I met a whole lot. At that age, I left Nigeria. I was already 7 months pregnant. So by the time I got to Russia, I just had like 5 months. I became a mother. I think you should be calculating how old I was by then. So, my son then was 4 months, 2 months, barely 2 months, when the school session resumed. And instead of going to stay and taking a study leave, I insisted that I was going to continue my education. So you find out that the girl, the young mother, the fresh student, who could barely speak Russian language. In fact, I was not even able to speak Russian language. It's an entirely different environment because I was not prepared. I didn't know I was to learn another language before I began to study in another country. And then the weather was so wicked. Let me put it this way. It was very frigid. I don't know whether the science students are here. If you imagine the temperature of the fridge or the freezer before it gets frozen, I think it's on the under zero. The Russian weather then was -40, -45, which we had to cope with it. Then as a young mother then, I have to shuttle in between the house and my studies because I will have to come back home to meet my nanny, rush and then breastfeed, and then go back to the class. I was, I have myself battling with all of this. Then you have racism. That one is another story entirely. I found myself in the middle of white men. At some point, I was the only female. I was the only black lady in a city of an unknown. Then, at this period, I feel like I want to drop everything that matters in that place, come back home as a young mother to have the bond, the privilege as an African girl child to enjoy the extended family we are used to. But then I was alone, all by myself. My husband does most of the travel in search of money to take care of the family. So I was practically alone with my son, having to battle in between my school, my son, motherhood, racism, harsh weather, and so on and so forth. But then, that word that is standing in that screen kept me on. I had to move on. Now, after my first degree, I told myself that it's a non-stop. I had to go for my second degree. And then after 9 years, I came back. Before the age of 25, I was already having my master's degree. I came back to the country and then did my NYSC. That word that is still at this screen is like a propeller in all the life experiences I've had professionally. Now, immediately after my NYSC, the day we were collecting our certificates, I was going for a job interview. I remember I had my clothes to change inside a bag, a nylon bag. Immediately after I received my NYSC certificate, I entered a fast food center in the toilet. I managed to buy bottled water so that I won't be embarrassed. Then I went inside the toilet, I had a change of my clothes, and went for a job interview, and I was offered. When I came back home, I told my husband then that I have been offered an employment, and he said, yes. Oh, that's good. How much is your salary? And I told him. He laughed. He actually did not say anything. That was on a Friday. By Monday, I was dressed and I want to go to work. And I told him that, please, when you are going, I would like to follow you. Then you drop me off on the way. And he said, where are you going this early morning? I said, I'm going to work. He said, what work? I said, I'm going to work. I told you I was offered a sales rep. Actually, it was a field officer, not even a sales rep. He said, you don't mean it? I said, yes. He said, no, you are going nowhere. With a master's degree, you study, you have foreign certificate, you want to go and take up a sales job at how much? Don't worry. I will give you that money. Every month, I will be paying you that money, but I don't think this job is okay for you to take as a foreign graduate. And I told him, no, let me go and explore. You know why? It is actually not the money. I want to go see the world. I didn't want to take that chances of having to look for a better bread, a buttered bread. I want to pass through and experience this. I gave him a reason why I need that exposure. And then he said, okay, and I started my job. When I started this job, I had my CVs. Everywhere I go, drop these sales adverts, in search of sales adverts. I keep begging for them to help me photocopy my CVs, and I keep dropping it. And during this, I had another job offer. It kept me on and on. That word, this particular word on this screen, has always been giving me a referral to getting other jobs. Then after several years, I submitted an application for a job through Guardian newspaper, back then in Lagos, and I was called to attend the interview. After a series of interviews, what I want to put out there is that at some point I remember that there are only 5 of us. I was the only woman among them. And you see, very highly experienced guys applying for the position of a business development manager. And they were discussing, have you been to this Anderson job advert, Philip Consulting, Procter & Gamble? The experiences was amazing. I almost pick up my bag to run away because I feel that I was just the least qualified among them all. You see guys that are very, very highly experienced, and I'm here sitting down. The only job I had done there reasonably was a business development officer, where all I do was a communication between myself and my MD, and then relating with the stakeholders on the office. Having to apply for business development managerial job is an experience I don't even have. So when I had these guys discussing, I felt that no, I am not qualified. I almost carried my bag to go back to my house that this job is not for me. But something also held me back. That is the word we are seeing on our screen, and I stayed. At the end of the day, after like about 2 weeks, I already, given up that, no, this job, I know that I wasn't going to be qualified. I got a text message that I was given a provisional job offer. My heart skipped. How am I going to, cope in an environment, a job description that I don't know? But I went there, I spoke with the MD, and I was offered the appointment. I kept reading. I kept visiting family and friends who had similar, being referred to multinational companies to know how the business development unit works. Then after 2 years, I was facilitating an event for my boss. And I got to meet my former boss, where I did my very first job after my NYSC. And he tapped me at the back and said, Mrs. Sonny. I looked, I said, how are you doing, sir? He said, fine. I said, what are you doing in Owerri? He said, Nick is my friend, that's my MD. And I was looking, what happened? It was later the sales manager told me that actually there was a decision has been taken to who to get the job. But all of a sudden, he noticed that I had Gold Star publishers in my CV. And he stopped and called the MD, who happens to be his bosom friend. And what did he say? Do you know this woman? And that one said, yes, I know her very well. She's highly committed to work. Whatever she does, she is very, very committed. And if I have my way, if I can afford her, I will hire her over and over again. And that was what gave me that job as a business development manager. Now, can we go to the next slide? So I started doing the job. In whatever I do in life, I put in my best. And there are things that we should associate with this theme of today. There's this African proverb that says that your mind works like a parachute. If you don't open it, if you don't open a parachute, you do not appreciate its possibility. You do not know that a parachute actually saves life. If you leave it and you don't open it, if you don't put it to work. So our mindset has to be open to opportunities, chances that comes with a whole lot of sacrifices. And throughout my career life, I've learned a great deal. And those things come in 3 things. You have to persevere, perseverance. I have seen it all. The harsh weather, the racism, having to be a young mom, having to cope with everything. Everything I learned about motherhood is by experience. I taught myself. I could drop off everything and come back to Nigeria to bond with my parents. But this perseverance stood, and I had to walk. And that perseverance is you have to climb even when your legs are shaking. You have to put more effort. You have to do everything it takes to make sure that you persevere and, climb upon several adversities and difficulties that will come along. Extra mile. Now, there is standard mindset of, okay, I have given in my best. Let us leave it to God. Some of these extra miles that we put, it adds a lot of value in our life. Be it in relationship, be it in religion, in relationship with the way we treat our staff, the way we treat our neighbors, the way we treat colleagues, the way and manner we go about treating people. This extra mile speaks for us. Where everybody stops, if we put just a little mile, we just put an extra mile, it has a long way to go in our, both professional and individual life. And then lastly, self-image. What are you known for? Some persons are identified with integrity, ethical, due diligence, commitment. Professionally, for the young, upcoming youth, the mothers, the young people here, what will you want to be identified with? That is what we call, self-image. And I think I've done a lot in that. I stand in before you this morning, and I can say that throughout this almost 23 years professional experience, there have never been a place that I have worked and you ask my immediate supervisors in that environment, and they will not tell you that REKIYA SANNI is a highly committed person in any way. If you go ask my people, they will tell you that this is a very highly committed, I think it's a self-image that I have built for myself. Now, in trying to, finding it to round up this our discussion today, what are we taking in from here? There are two different things I want us to note. Commitment and interest. When you have interest in something, of course you are passionate about it. You go on and on and on and on. That particular time, when you think that this is not comfortable and you let it go, that is just interest. By the time you want to look through adversities, look through difficulties, and give it perseverance, extra mile, and let it be, and follow it up to conclusion, that is where commitment is. So, now, talking about adversity, last year I lost my son. We had a special bond at 27 years old. This will have broken everybody in the universe. I was devastated. At some point, I was even undergoing mental health specialist. And it was very difficult, very, very difficult. Even up to now, it's still difficult. Because at times, I find it very, very difficult to believe that, so this boy is gone. But then, I know there is a lot of people looking up to me. And I need to persevere. I need to build. I need to heal. I know it's going to take years. I can never, ever be healed 100%. But I'm doing a whole lot to help myself. And that is why when you see me outside, when you see me today, you think that, oh, this is a very, very happy professional. Everything is going on well. But then, it is that spirit of being committed to whatever I do. Because if I had let myself down, my work would have suffered. A whole lot of things would have gotten spoiled. That is where I want to stand in today and encourage everyone here, the young women, the youth, the students, and everyone here to know the difference between interest and commitment in whatever you do. Thank you very much.